the 18 WJTS News. Good evening. I'm Charlotte Olson. Injuries were reported in a single-engine plane crash that took place yesterday just before 10 a.m. and about 150 yards from the airport terminal in Huntingburg. The pilot was able to escape the plane on his own, and airport authorities say that the pilot was injured but was also taken to Memorial Hospital. Sometime after 1 p.m., airport manager Travis McQueen advised that the name of the pilot is Steve Miller. He suffered minor abrasions and a few bruises. McQueen says that he spoke with the pilot, Steve Miller, by phone late Wednesday evening, who was back home. McQueen says that Miller was very appreciative to the quick response by the first responders making their way to the Huntingburg airport in response to his aircraft incident. The airplane is an older aircraft. It is a red 1941 two-seat, one-engine plane. Officials say that the incident is still under investigation. There were no witnesses on the series of events leading up into the plane crash, and airport maintenance personnel arrived to the plane when it was already on the ground. The Federal Aviation Administration were also en route from Indianapolis to do more investigation. Officials with the FAA arrived on Wednesday and could be about 30 days before a written report is reviewed and released. Another aircraft was waiting to get clearance to head towards French Lick, but had to wait due to the 1941 aircraft crash. Authorities stated that the severe wind could be considered as a major factor in the incident, and that authorities have yet to determine from which direction Miller had flown. Authorities shared that they've said some aircraft accidents have happened in the past. And the Indiana State Police, Huntingburg Fire Department, Huntingburg Police, DuBois County Sheriff, and Memorial Hospital EMS all assisted at the scene. Representatives from the DuBois County Community Foundation, the Jasper Cultural Center, and also the City of Jasper addressed the public at a press conference on Tuesday morning regarding a grant announcement. Executive Director Clayton Boyles announced a $75,000 grant that has been given towards the Jasper Cultural Center and also directed to the Jasper Public Library Endowment. Boyles said that the foundation admires the growth of Jasper and the dedication to becoming part of a sustainable and also developmental and long-term capability for organizations in the area. Boyles elaborates on the significance in investing in the cultural center with current and future generations in mind.
We're going to have this cultural center for generations to come. I don't know how many generations. It depends on how well they maintain it and the material, I guess, of the building, but generations. And that is an investment in our community. We've had amazing community leaders from a long, long time ago that made investments in this community and in DuBois County in general that our generations are benefiting from and our past generations benefited from. I think that this is a stamp for this community to make our investment for further and future generations to have. We're excited to be a part of it.
Boyles noted that as part of a generation who sees Jasper and DuBois counties as such a wonderful community to come back home to, he says that Jasper has such a familial atmosphere worth investing in. The grant will be added to the existing endowment held by the DuBois County Community Foundation. Jasper Public Library Board President Dean Vonderheide shared his gratitude on behalf of the library board. Vonderheide added that the endowment will help them minimize property taxes in the future and also says that he admires the collaborative approach by the library staff and board, also by the Arts Commission and the Arts staff, and now with the addition of the Community Foundation. Vonderheide notes that the Jasper Cultural Center project is for the entire community to create a place for all to learn and for all to reach their full potential. This grant is the second largest in the history of the Community Foundation, behind the grant made in 2014 to the Next Act Incorporated for the Astor Theater in downtown Jasper. Arts Commission President Mike Jones provided an example about a question regarding the Jasper Cultural Center and why people should support the proposed project in next month's general election. Jones says that the quality of life is an element that will contribute to the future of Jasper for generations to come. Today we continue our mental health series, and this is a series that we are bringing to you each Thursday this month of October. Last week we brought you our first segment, and it was a broad overview of mental health in our state and how mental health in our state affects children and adults. Tonight we will be discussing PTSD. Here is news reporter Joy Holt bringing us more information on PTSD.
This week we will be focusing on post-traumatic stress disorder, more commonly known as PTSD. PTSD has found its way into the American vernacular as a more common term in the last 15 years due in part to the longevity of the past War on Terror. However, PTSD is not exclusive to returning soldiers. Many people can experience post-traumatic stress disorder throughout their own lives due to assault and/or disaster. As we focus on PTSD, we will learn the clinical definition, ways to identify with oneself and others the traits of PTSD, and how to find treatment. According to the National Center for PTSD, a division within the Department of Veterans Affairs, post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental health problem that some people develop after experiencing or witnessing a life-threatening event such as combat, a natural disaster, a car accident, or sexual assault. PTSD is not a selective disease and can happen to anyone. There are a number of factors that can be taken into account at the increased risk of a person developing PTSD. Most of these factors are out of an individual's control, and while stress can make PTSD more likely, a good social support system can make it less likely. Experiencing symptoms of PTSD can happen soon after a traumatic event but may not be noticed by others until months or even years later. Also, these symptoms could come and go between years and last for short or long periods of time. The National Center for PTSD has categorized the 4 types of symptoms one may experience. However, these experiences will vary according to the individual. The first category is reliving the event. This could happen through bad memories, nightmares, or even feeling as though the event is happening to you all over again, also known as flashbacks. The second category is avoiding situations that will remind you of the event. This happens either by refusing to think or talk about the event, or avoid people or situations that could trigger a memory of the event. The third category is harboring more negative beliefs and feelings. After a traumatic event, you may feel guilt or shame. You might no longer enjoy the activities you once did. The person could have a loss of trust in others or society, and/or there is struggle in feeling happy, or a numbness in all feeling. And the fourth category is feeling keyed up, also known as hyperarousal. This can be seen as being jittery, always alert, and on the lookout for danger. Anger, irritability, and being easily startled are also signs of hyperarousal. These are the 4 main components that make up the symptoms of PTSD, but are not entirely the rule, as each person can have different experiences when confronted with a traumatic event. When a person is a bystander to someone with PTSD, it may be hard to know where to turn in finding help for all parties involved. The first step for a caregiver is educating themselves with as much information as possible about PTSD. This can aid in giving the caregiver an understanding of what their family member is going through. With all the research that has come from the last 2 decades and since the inception of the National Center for PTSD in 1989, research has been nonstop aiding in the breakdown of misconceptions of what PTSD was and the range of people affected by it. The National Center has emerged as the world's leading research and educational center of excellence on PTSD. Its vision is to be the foremost leader in information on PTSD and trauma. Information generated internally through its extensive research program and information synthesized from published scientific research and collective clinical experience that is efficiently disseminated to the field. If you or anyone you know needs help with PTSD, contact your local family counseling services.
Thank you, Joy. We still have 2 more segments in our mental health series, so make sure to watch next Thursday for part 3. Next week, we will be discussing eating disorders. Pine Ridge Elementary in southeast DuBois County was awarded $1,000 by Old National Bank through its Tools for Schools grant promotion, which is a company-wide campaign created to help get the school year started right for countless students in need of local communities. The Tools for Schools grant promotion was conducted during the month of September, and visits were encouraged to Old National's Facebook page to vote for a school to receive a Tools for Schools grant. A voting page was created for each of Old National's regions throughout Indiana, Kentucky, and Michigan, with participating school districts pre-populated to make the voting collection easy. Nearly 80,000 votes were casted for nearly 800 schools in approximately 500 cities. Grants for $1,000 are now being awarded to the schools with the most votes in each region. A $6,000 grant is going to Madisonville North Hopkins High School in Madisonville, Kentucky, for receiving the most overall votes. Make sure to keep it right here, because up next we'll take a look at your weather summary.